All right, if everybody could take their seats, we'll go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. This is a two-way street. My name is Tracy Richardson. I've known Candice for, oh God, how old is Logan? You're 21, 20? I guess I've known her 20 years, 21 years. First day I met Logan, the first day I met Candice, I don't know if you know this, was the day she found out she was pregnant with you. Yeah, you probably wouldn't remember that. But, and it was weird because my job I worked at Channel 6 in Orlando, WKMG, and on one of my jobs, which were many, I assigned talent to different events, art shows, whatever. I would get talent to go and they'd man a booth and all that stuff. Well, Candice, I had not yet met. She had just started. She transferred from our sister station in Jacksonville, WJXT, and she volunteered to go to this event. Okay. Well, I had not met her, so I decided to stop by and just make sure everything was okay. And we just kind of hit it off. And we were talking, and she got the phone call while I was there that she was pregnant and made a big deal about, no, you don't understand. I was never going to get pregnant. They told me I could never get pregnant. It's a miracle. It's like, okay, whatever. How have things been going? So we became inseparable. In fact, to this day, there are people that are convinced that Logan is actually my son. One of them being my own mother. I asked her, it's like, Mom, what gave it away? The flaming red hair? I don't have, it's a long story, but there was a weather lady at Channel 6, Pamela Brady, who was also convinced that Logan was my son. To this day, I think she probably still feels that way. So, son, thank you for coming. Anyway, we're here today to celebrate a life that affected a lot of people, more than you can know. In fact, when we decided to do this celebration, she passed away in Colorado at Denver. We didn't want to do it in Denver because Keith and her had only been there a little over a year. She is from St. Louis, but she had a huge following in Orlando and Jacksonville from her time on the air. But we felt that this is home for her, so we were going to do it here. So we arranged to stream this. So for those of you who have tuned in today, thank you for joining us. There are quite a few from what we see that have tuned in. We will hear from one person on a talk back, but this is something new to me. I mean, we produced today like a TV show. They were a little amazed when I walked in this morning and went, here's a rundown. And he's like, wow, people do this. We wish everyone did this. I said, you're dealing with a TV crowd now. So we have to produce it like Candice would want it produced, which means she's the star of the show. I will explain this photo at the end. There is a story, as there always is. But to start off things today, I want to bring up a person who is a very good friend of ours. We worked with Stephen at WKMG. He was an investigative reporter? Okay, it's been so long, I know. 10 years? Yeah, I can't tell you what I did last week. I'm retired now, so it's, when this all came down, we contacted Stephen because we were all a little stuck on what to put out. We needed a writer. Well, Stephen writes novels as well. So we called Stephen and he just jumped at it. And he's gonna bring us what he came up with, and it's just amazing. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Stephen Cooper from Atlanta.
Well, that's not the right expression. I didn't work my life, so. After what I've been through today, either one or just not. Tell us what you went through. I'm the reason why we're delayed today. I'm so sorry. No, actually, no, it's Delta Airlines is the reason why I am delayed and I have kept you waiting. Thank you, Delta. As Tracy mentioned, I'm Stephen Cooper, and cross paths with Candice. I crossed paths with Candice in Orlando, Florida. We worked together for many years. I've known Candice since before Logan stepped foot on the planet, and look at him now. But yeah, so I was asked to put together some thoughts about not just my experience with Candice, but kind of the world's experience with her. A lot of people went into making this message that I'm going to read today because those who knew her best all have slightly different perspectives about their experience with this incredible person. Because I think she made sure that your experience with her was incredible in its own way. So there were many people who contributed to putting together this message. So yeah, I mean, I would love to sit here and find all kinds of humor. And there will be maybe some, but this is pretty serious because I think we were all looking for some kind of catharsis, if you will, some way to not necessarily put this in perspective, but to understand that things happen that we can't understand. And so while we may not be able to define it, there are ways that we can look at it and feel kind of blessed that we do have this moment to appreciate somebody so amazing. I haven't even started yet. That was just like my prelude. So get comfortable. I'll begin with a quote. Fate whispers to the warrior, you cannot withstand the storm. The warrior whispers back, I am the storm. You've likely heard that quote somewhere. But Candice Coleman, who passed away in April at the age of 53, was the warrior who became the storm. She fought her battle with cancer bravely, as we knew her to be. She fought it fiercely, as we knew her to be. She faced her disease with dignity, wisdom, and in that inimitable Candice way, humor. On her worst days, she would put on some lipstick, smile, and take a selfie. It's not possible to sum up the life of someone who is larger than life, as Candice certainly was. But if you asked those closest to her, the list would sound something like this: loving, loyal, spunky, funky, passionate, faithful, courageous, and chaotic. Because all storms create some kind of chaos. And we will miss that part of her as much as we miss anything else. And it's a compliment. It's part of her energy in her spirit. Like next time that you wake up and can't face the day, think of the storm of Candice coming in your direction, coming for you. Think of that laugh. Think of that smile. See the reverie in her eyes, and there is no way you will remain in whatever dark place you happen to be. She will lift you. Because as cliche as this might sound, Candice was a light that burned brightly, a light of love and hope and peace. She was a radiance, all her own. For people with worries, she offered astonishing clarity. For people who were scared, she lent a very bold hand. For people who needed comfort, she became a mother, a sister, an angel. For her loved ones, she would move mountains, even when she was faced with an arduous climb of her own. We know what was most important to Candice. Her family was number one. Candice loved nothing more than Logan, Keith, her parents, and her friends. She strived to be the best mother she could be. Candice wanted her son to feel loved every day of his life, and nothing came between them. She was protector, provider, proud mama, the ultimate lion protecting her cub. Even at this age, I asked Logan about his favorite memories of his mother. Now, I didn't expect to get this, but I did. It was about a stop that they made at McDonald's on the way from Florida to Missouri. Did I say that right? It's my first time here. Okay, because I've heard like two versions. Missouri. Okay, that's a relief. So they stopped at this McDonald's, and it was there that she taught Logan how to mix ranch dressing with ketchup, right? To make Puerto Rican salad dressing. It's news to me. Logan got all excited and screamed, "Puerto Rican salad dressing!" in a restaurant full of Latin American customers. So of course, Candice turned as crimson as Logan is turning now. And you know, today that might have gotten her canceled, but she did not have a malicious bone in her body. She just wanted to delight her little boy, and she certainly did. They would laugh forevermore when they mixed ketchup and ranch. There was also the preschool birthday, where she brought pythons and anacondas, and she probably gained the reputation as that mother from the preschool. But guess what? That's why we love her. And I think there was one more memory that he shared that means a lot to me. She surprised Logan with a trip to Keystone. She was undergoing chemotherapy at the time. She had to carry an oxygen tank, but she went up the hill with him. She was, at the time, sick out of her mind, but she got up at 4 a.m. She drove for hours both ways, and she was out there in that very thin air, jubilant the entire time. As Logan describes it, Candice defied the laws of the universe when it came to parenthood, and we know that. As a single mom, she gave him the love of all the moms in the world. Their bond was a sacred one. I mean, how many guys can talk about absolutely anything to their moms? Not many. But Logan could, and he did. She created a world for Logan where he could be brave. He could enjoy the risk of trying something new and not only express, but understand his own emotions. That's a real gift. In his own words, Logan says his mom was the human embodiment of a plush mattress. But there's something really beautiful here, because he says that like this beautiful plush mattress, it was somewhere that he could fall, he could fail, he could give up, but she'd always be there to catch him and help him rebound. I love that story, and I love that sentiment, Logan. And you know what? I think that kind of parenting works. I mean, look at how Logan turned out. A smart, compassionate, accomplished young man, someone who made her so proud and makes us all very proud. Candice, you did an amazing job raising your sunshine. Logan will always remain the heart of her. And while that soul of hers feared that it might never find a mate, of her faith, as in everything with Candice, was stronger than her fear. Faith won out the day Keith came into her life. They held hands throughout their entire first date. They talked late into the evening. She told everyone she fell in love that first night, and she wouldn't have said it if she didn't mean it. She feels things very deeply. It was really not a mirage. You know, falling in love and all that stuff sometimes feels unreal. This was not unreal. It was not a mirage for her at all. I think it was the dream, actually, that finally came true, and that's not an embellishment. Anyone who knew Candice knew that she had finally found the one. We had never, ever seen her happier, never so committed or so devoted and so in love. This was a turning point. She was excited. Keith was excited. We all were excited. We could have given them a standing ovation for the Academy Award for courtship. It was that great. We all loved Candice for who she was, but Keith loved her beyond even that. He loved her for the treasure that he found in her soul. And she showered him with love every day. Every morning on Keith's way to work, Candice would text him a quote, a meme, a GIF, whatever, sometimes a poem, but it was always with a loving message. Imagine starting your day like that every morning. They were engaged in May of 2022, and they were planning to marry this summer. As for her friends, well, Candice kept a very close circle. If you were in her circle, you were in it for life. No matter the months that passed or even years, no matter the miles in between, her private life was paramount to her, because in that private life, Candice could just be Candice. Not the performer Candice, the person Candice. She chose people that she could trust, people who would be the calm to her storm, people who made her feel safe and loved. She chose people like Nisha. She chose people like Tracy and Barbara, and I'm honored to say she chose me as well. Sorry. And beyond her friends and her family, beyond Logan and Keith and her parents, there was her God. With him, her relationship persevered. He sustained her. Her spiritual life was both personal and transcending. She found great strength in her relationship with God. She found guidance and hope. And we would see so much of him in how she treated others. She never preached. Her faith was in her actions, not in words. It was in her caring and in her compassion, her ability to forgive, her capacity to love, and we are all the better for it. And finally, there was the public Candice, the TV Candice, the tenacious, vivacious, tireless Candice who went on the air and captured the hearts of the audience because she truly, genuinely cared about making people smile, about making people happy, and making a positive impact. Candice was a supportive and loving colleague behind the scenes, I know this personally. She cheered on great work. She was effusive with compliments and let the success of others inspire her own. In a business full of fakers, she was the real deal. She lived out loud, as they say, and her presence could be heard throughout the newsroom and at times the entire building. And I love that too about her. She knew exactly what she wanted, and she would stand her ground for what she believed in. So yes, she frustrated her bosses. She gave them headaches. But you know what? Those were the headaches those bosses needed to get. And I would say that she did this still in a very honest way. It's not like she was always right. It's not like she thought she was always right. She knew what she believed in, and she went for those things, not for herself, but for on behalf of the people who believed in her. We're greeting her parents now. Lovely to have them here. Welcome. So now that we know that her bosses got the right headaches, and I hope that some of them are on the call virtually right now.
They are.
Oh, good. Because I want to affirm that the headaches that Candice gave anyone actually left us making us feel better. You know, when you had time to sort of process, she always made us feel better. Her intentions were always honest. Her fire was fueled by a passion no one could deny. And in the end, what she did professionally was good for her employers. She built a brand that scored high in the markets where she worked: St. Louis, Jacksonville, and Orlando. No tribute to Candice is complete without mentioning a love so deep, a yearning so strong, and a desire so intense. Candice was known for her coffee. She was known for her obsession with coffee. So next time you make a toast, forget the champagne. Raise your mug of Java and say, to Candice, the queen of coffee, the mother, the daughter, the lover, the friend, the colleague, may she always be caffeinated. Her radiance remains with us. I feel it today. So does her energy and her spirit. I want all of you to bask in that now as you remember Candice. And the next time that storm rolls in, I want you to feel her in every crash of thunder out there. And I want you to see her in every flash of lightning. Our warrior will always be a part of us. So there's really no need to say goodbye. She's here and she will remain with us. And if you're mourning a life cut short, it is a life cut short. But let me assure you that Candice lived more life in her 53 years than many live at 93. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephen. That was amazing. And so true. You're right about the coffee, and we're going to go into that in a little bit too. In fact, that's coming up. But first off, this next person, Keith. I met Keith 2 years ago when Logan, I drove up here, my first trip to St. Louis, hated driving through Kentucky. Worst roads on the country, but got up here for Logan's graduation. And Logan and I were talking one day, and he said, "Have you met this Keith guy?" And I said, "No, but your mother has told me all about him. Trust me, Candice told me everything. Candice told me things I never wanted to hear." But Logan asked me, he goes, "Well, are you going to meet him while you're here?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to spend all day Friday with him." You remember this? He goes, "Would you check him out and get back to me?" I'm like, okay, not a problem. So I spent a day with Candice and Keith. A couple times I wanted to throw water on them, get a room, whatever, there's a body here, watching. But I had an incredible day with both of them. And I fell in love with with Keith that day. I'm thinking of Stephen over here. I fell in love with Keith that day. And that night, Logan had come home from a graduation party and he bolted right in. It's like, what do you think? I looked at him and said, "Let me put it to you this way. If she doesn't marry him, I will." No ideas. Keith has been a blessing. He came in at a point in her life where, at this point, we didn't know she was going to get sick. Keith could have just said, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and walked away, but he didn't. I mean, he stuck by her side the entire way. I flew out there 4 times, 5 times, I don't know. I got to hate Southwest Airlines, and now we hate Delta. This man has meant so much to Nisha and I, and to Barbara, Stephen. I mean, we've spent the last 2 months on Zoom calls, trying to get this all arranged. But this is a person that gives of himself. And we're so happy and so lucky that she found him. So I'd like to bring Keith up at this time. I have to find your slideshow real quick. I closed the computer. I'm so sorry.
I was thinking I was just going to get to enjoy everybody else's talks. I forgot.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
So
Hey, for those who are online in your Orlando, this is him. Oh, the camera's over there, so.
And for those of you who aren't on Facebook, I mean,
There's
2
me, that's
years
about
of
it.
information about me. I was able to come into her life at a time when Logan was like, "Don't put me up every day." And I said, "Well, put me up instead. I can handle that." And if I can have Mark put the presentation up so that people can see some of the pictures. It's really a picture presentation. I didn't write a speech. Every time I thought about what I was going to say, it was different, and I would start to cry. But I love the fact that all of you are here because that helps me a tremendous amount. And maybe we'll laugh a little bit too today. I want to tell you about Candice in the last 2 years.
Just say next slide.
And it's so hard to figure out what is important because so much has happened. And she's so amazing that I can't put it into a 5 or 10 or 20 minute or an hour presentation. So we're only going to talk about a couple of things, but there is so much more. And she was so much deeper than that. But she had some incredible, extraordinary, and amazing characteristics. And I'm just going to give a few stories to highlight just a couple of those. Next slide, Mark. I was thinking about what to talk about and what characteristics those should be. And we're going to go in order from, when we met, before we met actually, up until now, today. Candice was inspirational to so many. Facebook was like part of her life. Every day she would post something.
Every day, every 5 minutes.
Every day. It may have been a coffee meme, but it was usually also something really inspirational to others. She did not seek to give herself attention. She sought to highlight how that, whatever she was doing, could help other people. So I want to give you an example of that. And that's where we'll start. Next slide, please. You're not going to be able to read all the text, but I went back and I looked at some of the photos she posted of her journey from going through a life-changing, medical event. She had a lesion on her brain, and it took away her ability to do a lot of the things that she normally did, and the medication she had to take to help recover caused her to gain a lot of weight. She posted that journey with inspirational comments about how she was getting her shape back, how others could do it too, how she knew that that could help other people. That was the way she lived. She really didn't post selfies in the gym to show off her figure. She posted selfies in the gym with content saying things like, "So when you tell me you can't do something, I don't believe you because I believe in you." She said a lot of amazing things to inspire other people. And that was even before we met, she was doing that. But once we met, next slide. We met in April. She found me online. She sent me a note and I responded. And she put all this on Facebook too, but I'm going to tell you it again. She said, "You're cute." And, I swiped whatever direction you're supposed to swipe. And we chatted for a while, and then we called for a bit and we set a date, and we went on our first date. And we'll say this is the summer of big love. I'll tell you why. Next slide. The picture with Lacey, Logan, and Candice's cat and the flowers. I got her flowers on that first date. I came to her door. And for somebody who spent years on live TV, she stumbled over herself trying to figure out how to get the flowers inside into a vase, but she put them in a glass because she couldn't find a vase. And then, she clumsily came back out, and I asked her to hold my hand, and we had an instant connection. And I took her to a restaurant, and she was worried about being far away from her parents because that was the day they got their COVID booster, and she wanted to be close by. We went to the restaurant, and we felt like we had known each other forever. And Stacy, where are you, Stacy? I'm sorry, Stephanie. Wait, okay. No, it was Stacy who was here earlier, who had the same kind of instant connection with Candice. You meet her and you feel like you've known her forever. Well, I really did. And that date went on for hours and hours. We talked, we held hands, we sat close, and she said she fell in love with me right at the door, but we fell in love that night. And then our next date, I had to go out of town for a few days. Our next date, we went to Costco, and I got her flowers. And ever since that day, we always had fresh flowers in the house. And I put a couple of pictures up there, but about every 2 weeks, we go back to Costco. We have a Costco date. And that was back during COVID, so everybody's wearing a mask, and kissing with a mask is kind of interesting. It doesn't really work. But just imagine lovebirds, kind of just doing their own thing in the store. We talked a lot on the phone. And by the way, I have some things that I brought just to, help me with this talk. So first thing I forgot to bring out, because every time I think about this, I cry. So I've got some tissues up here. But since I've been crying all day, I got some more. So there's this book, the picture in the middle, it's called The 7 Levels of Intimacy by Matthew Kelly. And I had been reading this book, and I'm not going to read it to you, but the last couple of pages in the book, there's a story about a guy. He goes to the airport, and there's a family there waiting, a mother and her 3 kids waiting for the husband to come home. And Candice and I talked about this on a 7-hour call. And Tracy, your screen just went off. What do I do? So we talked about this on the 7-hour call, and I read this to her. And what happens, I'm just trying to do this really briefly here, is he watches how when the husband comes off the plane, he greets his family, each child individually, praising them, holding them, loving them. And then all his attention on his wife. Thank you. And he somehow feels a little bit embarrassed about like staring at them. And he asked, "How long have you been apart?" And the husband, still staring at his wife, he says, 2 whole days. But he thinks it's been like a really long time. And I told Candice on that call, I was like, that's what I'm looking for. That's the kind of love that I want. And she was looking for the same thing too. And we found it in each other. Every day with Candice was like that. There's another picture of us in the botanical gardens not long after that in May. We were just staring at each other, holding each other for about 30 minutes. And some lady came by and said, "Can I take a picture?" Because it was just like so moving to her. And that's where that picture came from. The one to the right of that is the Botanical Gardens in Denver. And I'd say we probably have 100 selfies of us kissing and 20 pictures like that, where usually Candice, she was bold and forward. She would ask somebody to take her picture. And we had a trip to Seattle. Here's another. This is my tag for, my bib for a half marathon I ran. We were already in love, but it was on that trip that we knew it was forever. Staring into her eyes and holding her close, I could see right into her soul. And I knew the kind of person she was inside. And I knew that we were perfect for each other. We're truly soulmates. And even, how she loves to tell everybody, there is in the dark one, where it's us standing in front of the gum wall in Seattle, if you know that. She says, "We might have decided Candy Petrovsky has a nice ring to it." So, even back then, just a few months in, that was a great trip. And believe me, we had so much fun on that trip. And the last picture was us at the zoo. If you ever get a chance to find that statue and you stand in the position we're at, it's an adult theme. I'm not going to say what you actually see, but we laughed our heads off for an hour that day. And we laughed every single day. She told me early on, this is why we call it, I'm sorry, Tracy, it did it again. She told me early on that she had big love. I'm like, what's that? She's like, most people couldn't handle that amount of love. And I said, you know what? That's the kind of love that I've always wanted. We had big love that summer, and we still have.
You have to touch it every now and then to let it know it loves you.
Okay. Love you too, Tracy. So the next amazing trait for Candice, next slide, is her talent. Candice did so many things in her career. It's amazing how, she wanted to be a reporter, and then she was, and then she wanted to, get into PR, and she did. We moved to Denver, and she decided she was going to write a new chapter and become a writer. She changed her career again. Let's see. So next slide, please. She started contacting all the local papers to see if they were looking for writers. I don't know if you know much about writers for local papers, but they get paid about anywhere from $50 an article to maybe $100 if you're lucky. And that's like, it could be a week of work to get that. So this was not about money, but she loved to write. And if you go back to her reporting days, she had such a personality in what she said and what she wrote. She used a lot of puns, which we'll forgive her that, but her character came through in her writing. There's a couple of examples here of the articles that she wrote, and there's a couple of the front porch papers roaming around from some of her very first pieces. And when her personality could come through in her writing, she really loved that. And she always asked Logan and I to proofread, which was kind of cool because, it's not like I could write, but I felt, she always made us feel included, like we were part of that. So in just a little, a short time, she started writing for 3 of the different papers in Denver. And these are some of the articles, and some were light and fluffy, like Restaurant Review. And the one on the right, this one about Major General Maurice Rose, she spent months on that. So some of the ones on the left side were done before she ever got sick. Even when she was sick, she was still writing, and the whole middle and right side were after she got sick. So it was just a passion, and she did everything she could to continue to get those articles done and get them published, and she really enjoyed that. How many people could say that? So next slide, but extremely talented. Now, I'm not going to share a lot of pictures over the next 2 categories. I want to tell you about how Candice is so courageous. And then I want to talk a little bit about how she was a fighter. And this isn't just about her illness. This is about her whole life. But we went to a show in Vegas, a convention, and Barb was with us, and we had an amazing time, but she was having some pain. Came back to Denver. Eventually we thought, well, maybe it's pneumonia, something. But it wasn't. It was neuroendocrine cancer. And not many people know what that is. It's not the kind of cancer that many people get. It's rare and it's different for everyone. There is no one neuroendocrine cancer. So your neuroendocrine system is anything that produces hormones. And you have a lot of places in your body that produce hormones. And hers, primarily, they believe, started in and around her lungs. She had tremendous amount of pain, and she goes to the hospital, the emergency room, and they had to drain fluid from her lung. And the amount of fluid that they drained the very first time was equal to about that much fluid. And now we understood something's really wrong. And all the tests came and found out this is what you have. Unfortunately, it wasn't just tumors in her lungs. It was already stage 4 cancer. And that started the journey. And a lot of people would have given up, but not Candice. We're going to beat this thing. In the overwhelming negativity, she was a positive force of inspiration. She talked about how she was going to write a story to help others, how she was going to be a role model to help others. And just like she did the rest of her life, everybody she would talk to, whether it was at the doctor's office or in the hospital, she made them smile. She made them laugh. She made people happy everywhere she went. And her courage remained. She never gave in. And she fought. She fought with, chemotherapy. She fought with immunotherapy. She fought with everything we could find. We even got like mushroom extract, nutritional, advice, everything we could find, she fought with. And she never gave up. She never gave up. And even though every day she still produced all this fluid, we drained about 3 times this can from her lungs. And the biggest, regret that she had was that she used to go swimming every morning, every single morning. And she couldn't go swimming because there was a tube coming out of her and you couldn't let water get in there. But she fought. And the whole time, she was extremely selfless. We already heard how she, next slide, please, for a gift, you can see the picture where she put together some kind of, thing to give to Logan, which was essentially snowboarding lessons. She drove there, as we heard, and took these pictures of him snowboarding. She stayed there the whole day. Originally, when we first talked about it, she was going to go skiing and Logan snowboarding. Eventually she couldn't ski, but she went there and she was so happy to be able to give that to you. I've got a lot of pictures of her parents up there because there's one more story I want to tell that's really sad. But it was near the end. The cancer had robbed her of so much. She had trouble walking. She had trouble talking. She had cancer in her head. She had trouble communicating. She really couldn't even use her phone much anymore. I was with her every hour I could. But I was at work sometimes, and I worried about that. So my amazing team at work allowed me to take leave and take over everything that I was doing there so I could spend all my time with kids. And I was ready to have somebody come in, skilled nursing assistants, so that I could go back to work. But found out that wasn't possible because she really needed 24-hour care. I was downstairs. I took dogs out for a walk. I came back in. I was downstairs. I heard something fall down the stairs. Candice was at the top of the stairs. She had this. You guys probably don't know what this is. This tests your lung capacity. You breathe in and the thing comes up. So remember, Candice was on oxygen. She had an oxygen concentrator, and we had talked about going to St. Louis to see her parents. She had gotten up, gotten dressed, gotten her wallet, her phone, and this, because this was her oxygen in her mind at the time. And she was getting ready to leave to go to St. Louis to be with Tom and Sharon. And I was shocked because I was just sitting in the living room. This falls down the stairs and she's standing on top of the stairs. I freaked out because I thought she was going to fall down the stairs. I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I talked to her. She could still talk. She's like, I have to go home. I have to see my parents. It's so important. Let's go. Let's go to the airport. And there's no way we could. We had no way to bring oxygen on the plane. We had no way to safely. And we went into hospice shortly after that. She always put others above herself, no matter what kind of condition she was in. Even when she was barely able to stand, she thought about coming to see you because she loved you and missed you and wanted to be with you. Next slide. I think I've done pretty good and not cried too much, so I'm gonna pat myself on the back. And I thank you all for being here, because that's really helped me, because honestly, I've been crying all the last couple of months and all morning too. Candice had such an amazing originality. She wrote her job description. They didn't have a Candice before Candice. And she had this segment that she did called Out There with Candice Coleman. And you may have seen some other slides before. She's wrestling alligators. She flew a blimp. She flew a Blue Angel. She did everything you could do multiple times. And a lot of it she did live, which is, really incredible. I watched one where she was on a roller coaster giving a report while she's going down a vertical incline, and she made it fun and exciting. And she got out there and did her thing every day. And so there's a couple of things that I think Candice would really appreciate. One is, we talked about the flowers. We have a lot of flowers, a lot of roses. Got a roses every time we went to Costco, which is basically every other week. We've got some tubes that, hold water, that you can take these with you to remember her by. And we had never even had a single conversation about, if one of us passed away, what would we do? And I was able to, with a squeeze of her hand, understand that she wanted to be cremated. And I brought her cremains, and we have a lot of keepsake urns. And for those of you who are interested, I would love for you to take some of those ashes and get out there and release them where you think is appropriate, and capture that moment and post it on her Facebook page, because that's what she did every single day. And let's celebrate her ongoing in one more way. And just let me know who you are, so that I can try and, I want to hold you to it, right? I want you to take the ashes, and I want you to really do it, or just keep them for yourself. That's okay too. But I still have more ashes. There's a lot of Candice. I have more ashes at home. And I've been thinking about what to do with the ones that I want to set free. And I don't even post on Facebook. But I'd really appreciate your help to let Candice get out there one more time. And that's the end of my presentation.
Okay. Just so everyone is aware, the blue urn there, that's not going. That is going to her parents. That's the urn there that you're taking with you today. Okay. Isn't he a great guy? Next up, Barbara. Barbara, I had never met Barbara until Candice was in hospice. I had gotten a call. I was planning on going back out in May. Keith called me and said, get out now. And I packed up so hurriedly that I got on a plane to go to Orlando, to Denver, in the middle of a blizzard. I didn't even bring a sweater. I live in Florida. What do we know of snow? I come in the room, and she's on two chairs here together, trying to sleep. I don't know how you did that, but oh, that's Barb. And she's like, hi, nice to meet you. So that was my first going of Barbara. Since then, I have discovered she has got a rather wicked sense of humor. So of course, we decided who better to bring us coffee memes than Barbara. So here you go.
Hi, everyone. Any of you that have been friends with Candice on Facebook all know that she loved her coffee, and she loved to post about coffee, and she loved to make comments about the posts that she made about coffee. So we are going to do a top 10 of her favorite memes today, and I'm going to read the comments, and you can read the meme. So let's get started. Okay, let's get that into presentation mode. Oh, yeah, very good. Okay, good. All right, so number one. Okay, yep. So number one, talking about Friends. Looks like Friends might have let friends drink bad coffee.
Barbara,
Yes.
they need to have you near the microphone for the internet.
Can I take it with me, because it's going to be hard to read?
No, I don't know.
I don't know either.
No, I think it's attached.
Dang it. Okay, so I need to be able to see to improvise. Yeah, I know, you guys, I don't have very good eyes, so that's part of my problem. Oh, gosh, no. I am kind of blind as a bat, y'all.
As you can tell, we rehearsed this today.
Yeah, we did. So, hi, everybody on the internet, sorry about that. So, let's go on to number two. She's like, heck, I would give move and give a change of address. Like a good neighbor, coffee's here. Okay, number three. I have discovered the dark matter that holds life together, and it's coffee. All right, number four. Yes, we are on a mission for coffee, guys. Yeah, I know, I wish I could read that. Okay, so number five.
Do you want me to give you the caption?
Yes, I would love for you to do that. Thank you, you're the best.
Well, the other one says something about 4 fried chickens.
I don't know, that must have been like in the moment, because I do not understand that one. Oh, this one, number five. I'd brew it. And so the coffee maker, not hot, but it has a great personality. Okay, number six. All right, so this is great, because it's totally what she would do with Logan. Dear son, thanks for being my son. If I had a different son, I'd punch him in the face and go find you. And what does the caption say?
Here's a twofer. Logan will be here in 4 hours, and there's like 17 emojis.
Excellent. All right, next. I just love seeing Logan's face with all these. It's great. I saw how snarky you were with your coworkers this year. You're getting coffee for Christmas. And this one I can actually read. Stay naughty, friends. Next. You only need one New Year's resolution. Drink more coffee. And then it just says Happy New Year, friends, I think. Okay. Oh, Happy Brew Year. Oh my goodness. Okay, number 9. When you've had 4 coffees before midday and someone asks you if you would like another. Yeah, that's beautiful. And Logan, what does the caption say?
The more the scarier.
The more the scarier. All right, and number 10. This one I didn't post the captions, but fighting cancer and still fabulous, and yes, that is absolutely true. All right, and then we have an honorable mention here. So let's, next slide, please. Come on, Logan, you love it.
Does that say pothead?
Yes, and it's a pot of coffee, everybody. Okay, well, thanks everyone for listening in.
Like I said, she's a little nuts. We love her. Okay, next person up. This young lady, I say that because I'm older than you. Candice talked to me about her from day one. Nisha met Candice when she was working at JXT in Orlando, and they became sisters. She's the godmother, I'm the godfather. I know it's hard to believe, but she's an amazing woman. So at this point, she's going to bring in some religious scripture for us. So Nisha.
Thanks, guys. Well, this is a hard one. I'm going to read from what I wrote to not become a blubbering mess for everyone. As everybody's talked about so far today, if you knew Candice, she became your Candice. She had a relationship with everyone that was individualized. So for weeks, I started with 2 words on my computer, my Candice, and I just stared at it for weeks. What do I say? What do I say about this person? What do I say about my sister? How can I possibly begin to adequately explain the impact of such an incredible life? A mother, a fiance, a daughter, a sister, and a friend. The truth is, I can't. I can only give you a small glimpse of why Candice had the immense capacity to make you feel loved, listened to, respected, admired, and accepted. Simply put, it was because of her faith. Candice believed in the one true God made real to all of us in the Bible. Many of us think of the Bible as a book full of rules and laws that are old and outdated and not applicable to today. This couldn't be further from the truth. It's in these pages that we find peace, assurance, mercy, grace, and love. It's where Candice learned how to live a life of purpose, intention, value, and most of all, love. Candice lived by 2 deeply rooted, God-breathed biblical principles: love God and love others. Matthew 22, chapter 22, verses 37 through 39 tells us this: "You shall love your Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. This is the great and first commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself." Love God, love others. This love, God's love, was Candice's core. 1 John 4, 7 through 9 says this: "Beloved, let us love one another, for love is from God. And whoever loves has been born of God and knows God. Anyone who does not love does not know God, because God is love. In this, the love of God was made manifest among us, that God sent his only Son in the world so that we might live through him." Candice's ability to love so vastly, yet intimately, to the point that we could all refer to her as my Candice, came directly through knowing who God is. It's Candice's belief and acceptance of the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ that her relationship with God grew and flourished. It's through this relationship that Candice found peace through prayer, even in the face of difficult circumstances, and even with her bout with cancer. It's how Candice became the radiant light that Stephen talked about, that we've all been drawn to for many, many years. Matthew 5:16 tells us, In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. Candice is light. Her smile, her laugh, her life gives us all a glimpse of how the love of God can transform lives. Candice's faith transformed her life. It's because of this transformation that we have all been touched in some way by the life of Candice and the love that comes directly from our Heavenly Father. While it's hard to comprehend a world without my Candice, without her light, I am confident that her time with us here on earth was so impactful that her humor, adventurous spirit, and undeniable love that oozed from her soul will forever be imprinted in our hearts for a lifetime. Would you bow your heads with me as I pray? Lord, gracious, heavenly, and merciful Father, I thank you for Candice. I thank you for the person you shaped Candice to be and the powerful impact of her life. I thank you for transforming grace and mercy that only comes from you. I thank you for your love. Lord, I pray that as we continue to navigate through life without Candice, please bring to our memory all the special moments we shared together. Let those memories bring us comfort. Let each picture make us smile. Let her laugh ring loudly in our hearts and minds. Let her bear hugs be felt in those moments when we miss her the most. Let her love fill us up when we feel depleted. Lord, I ask that you remind us that Candice was the person she was because you first loved her and love us just the same. Lord, show us your love daily and help us to know you in a mighty way. Help us to turn to you for guidance, peace, strength, and redemption. Help us to trust your word and your promises. Lord, I pray that if someone here today doesn't know you, you would speak to their hearts and draw them closer to you. Lord, I thank you for the work that you have done in Candice's life. I thank you for the work that came to completion in her life. I thank you for the work that you continue to do. Thank you for the years we experienced Candice's love and light. In your most holy, precious name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Nisha. At this point of the program, we'd like to open up the floor to any of you. If there's somebody that'd like to come up and say a few words. Anybody? Oh, come on, I drove from Orlando, come on. Anybody at all? Okay. Then we're going to go to online. We have, is it Frank Powers?
I am here.
All right, Frank, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. I was at Channel 4, started there in 1999, a few months before Candice got there. I'm still here in my 25th year of my sentence. Where do I start with Candice? It was adventure. I mean, she's the Indiana Jones of TV news there. Wrestled with an alligator, easy beans. Swimming with dolphins, oh, how sweet. Communing with wild horses on Cumberland Island, very picturesque. Rappelling down a building. That was a stretch for me because Gravity and I are not friends, being 6'3" and 300 pounds. She got hypnotized one time live on the morning show. They didn't make her do anything weird, just, relax, Candice. Be calm, Candice. Right, Candice, calm. And then after the segment was over, the TV station literally is right on 95. And there was a police chase that ended 5 minutes from the station. There were no other reporters in the building. We said, Candice, you got to go. There's breaking news. So literally the viewers went from seeing her being put under hypnosis to I'm live at 95 where the police chase just ended. but that was her versatility, her willingness to jump into everything fearlessly. Here's the one that the Navy let her drive one of their nuclear subs. God knows how close to nuclear Armageddon we came that day. Another morning show segment, she had for lack of a better word, an exotic chef come in, and he had all kinds of things that, so people all over the world eat these things. Frank, come here. You got to try some of this. What do we got here? Crickets. What? Crickets, yes. Actually, they weren't bad. Yeah, she would not let go. I had to eat several crickets. They weren't bad. How about this one? What's this? It's a scorpion. All right. I ate the scorpion. A little bitter, but I ate it. But that's just the influence that she had that Keith and you and Nisha talked about. She was a primal force. There aren't any like her anymore. And I'm so proud to have been a part of her life and be part of her adventure. And thank you for inviting me to speak here. She was a wonderful person and we all miss her.
Thank you, Frank. Like Frank said, she was an amazing person. I did not know about the alligator wrestling until just last night, was it? 'Cause she used to do all sorts of crazy out there stuff when she came to Orlando, but unfortunately, the minute she got pregnant, the management went, no, not doing that. No more jumping out of helicopters, no more going down the buildings. I mean, there was stuff, I think she wanted to swim with Shamu at SeaWorld, but they wouldn't let her do it. Anyway, at this time, I want to bring up a young man who I'm so impressed with. I've known him ever since he was a baby. I've changed his diapers, which he hates for me to admit to. He's started school. He's top of his class. He's always been an amazing student and a wonderful son, and that's Logan.
I had like a 8.5 hour car ride to practice this, and for some reason it feels a lot harder right now. And also, just a quick preface, I was like 5 for the McDonald's thing, so it's just like a kid moment, not trying to, anyways, didn't know that was gonna be read, but a good representation of how spontaneous Candice was. To speak in honor, Candice, my mom, is a Herculean and rather impossible task because you simply cannot summarize the unsummarizable. No matter how long I can spend up here lauding her and praising her greatest accomplishments and how she's changed not only me, but I mean all of us, to be frank, there's really no words to encapsulate her or her indomitable spirit. But what I can do is share what she meant to me and hopefully what she meant to all of you. The one word that comes to my mind when it comes to my mom is infectious, and not in the COVID sense, but in her joy. The only thing brighter than her smile was her personality, even in the face of despair. She had every reason to be sad. As I grew up, I kind of wrestled with this more and realized what she went through, but she had a limitless list of reasons to honestly be dejected or depressed. I mean, she was a single mother to a child with constant moves between Florida and Missouri, that pulled her from her jobs, from her friends, from her family and her relationships, and isolating her to the full extent of the word, to be honest. Multiple health complications that we've spoken on, and yet she was a gleaming light. Every one of the professions she held, from Missouri to Florida, was an extension of her. She never had a facade or put on a mask for her work. If you're anything like me, I currently do research at my institution, and And you know that when you go into work or when I go into the lab, it's like a performance. I don't really want to be there. I don't want to be at the desk. I don't want to fill out that paperwork. I don't want to talk to the customer, but I do what I got to do. But for my mom, it wasn't a job. It was her personality being weaponized or utilized, being paid to be her, because frankly, I think we would all pay for someone like Candice to be in our lives 24/7. She was something. So I wanted to go over the professions. She had quite a few professions, and for a lot of us, that's how we got to know her. And I think we'll all find that there are key details in every job she had that really pulled her greatest aspects. You know, first as a model, she was gorgeous both on the inside and the out. You know, she, behind every headshot you saw of her, if you look up there and you see beautiful photos of Candice, you know that there was some real funny cracks she must have made before the shot, because there's no way you could fake a smile like that. It had to be genuine. If you ask me, she probably pulled that from Grandpa. He's such a funny guy. He's got limitless jokes, you know. I think one of my favorites from him is he said, my neighborhood was so poor, when we threw a dog a bone, we'd signal for a fair catch, because it's like a football match. It's all the entertainment you get. And my mom was queen of jokes, queen of genuine jubilance and happiness. And as a model, that was all she did. As a reporter for Disney, she was tasked with this kind of crazy job, right? She had to represent the land of happiness. She had to be the person in front of the camera that represented the place where memories of a lifetime are made. I mean, how are you as an individual going to be able to present that to its duty? But as a truly memorable and bright person, it was like my mom was reporting on herself. I remember my childhood, I had my fair share of Disney trips, and on my left would be Mickey and Minnie, and on my right would be Goofy doing some crazy dance, and there'd be castles everywhere and buildings, and princesses and pirates alike. And yet the person I can remember making me smile, making me laugh the most was my mom, with no costume, no dance moves, no building, just herself. As a news reporter, she cherished the opportunity to take risks and tell stories. Everyone knows my mom was as brave as can be, and she had an unparalleled writing and speaking voice to match with it. We've heard this a couple of times in the other talks, but you know, she flew with the Blue Angels, she jumped out of airplanes, she controlled submarines, and we all know with recent news that is a very scary thing. I didn't realize. And she not only did these things, but she did it with a camera in her face. I know for a fact that if I were to jump out of a plane, like the last thing I would want is a camera in my face, to have to put on a show or to tell a story, and yet she didn't just do it, she gleefully did it. That's what she wanted to do. Because this wasn't a job to her, it was being herself. As a PR manager, she was the absolute biggest fan of whatever she wrote on. She was eternally loyal. She lauded every quality of her clients, and she made you feel like whoever or whatever she represented was the best thing on planet Earth. Every one of these jobs, and so many more that she had, were just microcosms of her character. My mom was a gorgeous model of optimism with a miracle of a smile, an amusement park-like disposition of eternal joy and jubilation, the bravest risk taker who enjoyed every second of her life because she knew none of it was for granted, and last but not least, a professional fan of everyone around her, who'd advocate for you even when you wouldn't advocate for yourself. You know, if we all just take a moment and close our eyes and remember some unique experience with my mom, there is no importance to her age or her job or the unique aspects of that experience we had with her. There's always this one common sentiment that we find with my mom and those memories we have, and that's that she found a way to uplift us and bring happiness and joy to our lives. Even in the saddest of moments, her boisterous and quite loud laugh and gleaming smile shine through, and she was a total badass. Even in her lowest of moments, she persevered. I can distinctly remember, this is a little humbling, when she had the brain lesion. This is an event that took away all of her liberties. She didn't know how to walk or talk or eat. And it wasn't 3 months, I know this to a T, 3 months after that she was able to get back up and moving and running farther than I could as someone who was half or a third of her age. She was running circles around me that quickly, relearning everything she had to do because she never gave up. A physical and emotional beast of a person. She pushed through, and as a teenage boy, that was really quite inspirational, that if my mom could do it, maybe I could too. You know, my mom was everything to me. She was a mother, and yet she was a father. She was a tutor and a teacher. Of course, she was a friend, but most of all, she was my fan. And in truth, she was all of our fans. Even as we remember and we celebrate my mom, we look back on moments where she celebrated us. There were moments where, and I'm sure we can all resonate with this, I had self-doubts. Applying for college or jobs and feeling like it wasn't good enough, right? It's a present thing, every teenager out there, and frankly, every person. And yet she was always there with like a 14-page, 12-point Times New Roman bullet point list on all the qualities that I should be so proud of and that these schools or jobs should be gleeful to take me for. And it's like I didn't even realize I had these qualities that she brought out of me. Because in truth, she was the catalyst for all of that. I am confident without my mom, I am not the man I am today. I am not a percentage of the man I am today without her. And this it's an interesting anecdote. This extends to everyone in this room, everyone on the Zoom, and everyone on our Facebook and beyond. It's kind of a unique one-way street, the Facebook. There's like thousands of photos of me out there, but I don't necessarily see or hear about you guys or how you impacted my mom. And so I would make it this kind of like weekly thing where I would, at least for a couple of years, I'd sit down with my mom and, she'd have some cool coffee meme or some, post or some picture, and there's like 45 likes on it. And if you quizzed me on who these people were, maybe like 5 of them I would remember from my childhood. And so I'd be like, hey mom, who is person X? And she would take a 10-minute instance 7 years ago in the past and extend it into a 30-minute spiel on how this person was integral to her as a person. Probably she would never be where she was without person X doing thing Y for 5 seconds that stuck to her. And that's when I realized she cares so insanely for everyone that she's ever interacted with. She didn't forget one name. I could say, she would never forget Keith, but this is an example. I could say, oh, who's Keith? And she'd be like, Petrovsky, I know this. And she'd have like 17 reasons why that's the best person in the world. She was eternally grateful for everyone she ever met, which is really quite impressive when you consider all the places she worked, all the people she's talked to, all the years that she's lived in, all those thousands of friends on Facebook. The fact that she remembers it all is quite the accomplishment. Despite having a life harder than anyone I could imagine, my mom showed immense and inhuman self-love and perseverance, and she found pure joy in the successes of not only herself, but others. And so what I want to leave us off with is that it's all we can do to honor and cherish Candice, to continue to live the lives that we know she would be proud of. Whether you knew her from a long time ago or today, or however you experienced Candice and her brightness, whether you're religious or not, we all know that Candice lives up there, around and inside of us, cheering us on to cherish life even half as much as she did. And so I implore you to live lives that we know Candice would be making Facebook posts and taking pictures and cheering us on about. Mom, I love you, and I hope you're up there enjoying your flights with the Blue Angels. Thank you.
Thank you, son. You had a very good point about her getting through difficulties. I know that when she was carrying Logan, she was as big as a house. Okay, now you got to realize she was a non-air personality, so, she was very concerned about her looks. So as soon as Logan was born, and I mean, it was late, you were like 2 weeks late, and she was like walking around the station, and I saw an old episode of Murphy Brown the other night where she was giving birth, and she's literally waddling down the hallway, ready to explode, and your mother did the same thing. She would waddle around the station because she couldn't walk, and we were all just waiting for her to explode. But when she finally did have Logan, she would put him in a stroller. We both lived in the same neighborhood, and there's this lake, and it's 3.3 miles to go around the lake. She would put Logan in a stroller and run around that lake. I mean, run, not walk, but run, pushing the baby carriage. And she would do it in the morning, she would do it at lunch, and she did it in the evening. 3 times a day she did this to drop that weight because she wanted back on the air. And she made it. She wasn't off the air very long when she had Logan. Of course, then we all got Candice and Logan because she got him on the air as much as she did. He got to be a better personality than she did for a while. Which leads me to my next part here, and then we'll be finished. One of the people that I wanted to talk to today, but he couldn't, he's very emotional, and that was her first boss. He was our news director at Channel 6, and he hired her at JXT, Skip Valet. And the day that Candice passed, he sent this beautiful statement, and he wanted us to look at it first. He wanted our approval before we posted it on Facebook. 'Cause I'm not a Facebook person, so I don't know any of that stuff. But it was such a touching thing, and I asked him if he wanted to speak today, but he said he just didn't think he'd be able to, but if I would like to read what he had written. So this is what he sent to us the day that she passed. Candice Coleman was one of the funniest, most interesting I've ever met. She was truly an original. It breaks my heart to write that she left the earth this morning, Sunday, April 2023. I had the pleasure of knowing Candice for 30 plus years. Trust me when I tell you her battle with cancer has ended, but cancer did not win. When I was new to my first opportunity as a news director, my feature reporter resigned. He was probably the last person I wanted to have replace. He was an amazing writer and a funny and remarkable reporter. After posting that job, I started to receive resume tapes, many resume tapes. And of all those tapes, I only remembered the person I hired. When I popped in her 3/4-inch tape, of course, those of you probably don't know what that is, but that's how far back we go, in a machine and hit play, these were the first words that came from the speakers. I'm Candice Coleman. Thank you for taking a look at my tape. No reporter had previously thanked me for watching their stories. She definitely had my attention. Her stories sealed the deal. It was a resume tape unlike any other. It was so good, I used to show it to aspiring reporters and photographers as an example of how to get a hiring manager's position, or a hiring manager's attention. Candice was a bona fide original. I'd never seen one like her, and I've never seen one since. She was the funniest when she wasn't attempting to be funny. Her excitement, passion, enthusiasm, and lust for life were evident in every story she put together. People in the newsroom would gather to watch her stories. Smiles would beget laughs, and sometimes groans, but nightly she crushed the #1 rule of telling stories on television: be memorable, never boring. We named her segments Out There with Candice Coleman, and they did the same thing in Orlando. A perfect title for her stories and her storytelling, and quite frankly, for her worldview. Despite my daily protestation, she always called me boss. Candice was beloved by her co-workers in Jacksonville and later in Orlando. She charmed just about everyone she'd ever met. She charmed us all because she was real. She was authentic. She was original. She was laugh until your sides hurt funny. She was also a lot of work, but it was worth every ounce of energy. I had to give her rules like don't talk in the camera with your mouth full of food, and never roll a frozen turkey like it's a bowling ball ever again. I've got to hear about that story. She was warm, caring, smart, and as we've learned, courageous. If you watched her stories, you really liked her. If you knew her, you loved her. Rest in peace, rest in power and peace, dear Candice. That was the first thing we got the day she passed. So Skip, I'd like to thank you, and it was a beautiful sentiment. Now, before we leave, I promised a few people today that I would explain this picture. There is a story. When I was at the station, one of my duties was as a creative, I dealt with all the nonprofits, and everything kind of went through me, and then I would bring it to management and get their approval, and we'd go forward. Well, Candice had run into this man, Cold Stone Ice Cream. I believe they're up here as well. And he had talked her into, let's create a flavor. You may create a flavor of ice cream, and we'll donate the proceeds to charity. Okay, good enough. So she comes into my office, she hands me this prospectus. I'm sitting there reading it, and I look up at her and I say, let me get this straight, Candice. You want me to walk down the hall into Henry's office and say, Candice wants to do a campaign. Hi, I'm Candice, eat me. Do you want me to be thrown off the roof of the building? And we argued for hours on that very slogan. I didn't do it. We ended up with something that was almost as bad. Have you tried Candice today? Management actually approved that because this is an actual button that everyone went out. We had billboards. It was a whole big deal. But that was the way Candice was. Living it life, living large. You know, she saw the humor. She thought it was funny. I was like, yeah, it was funny. You want to tell the little old lady who's going to call me up at 4 PM when she sees the commercial run? No. And of course, when I did tell Henry about it, he laughed and said, oh, I'm so glad you didn't bring that to me. So that's it. If anybody, just as a reminder, if you want, please take some of these flowers home. We do have some little vases we'll bring out in that room right now. There are ashes up here. Please help yourself. If you're going to Orlando, please don't take them to Disney World and throw them in the Haunted Mansion. There's a story about that. People do that, and they have to close the attraction once every other week and dust bust it, and I don't want her in a dust buster. So people will do that. So if you need any, if you want a copy of any of the photos, please if there's some here, take them. Just don't take them off that board, but this board, this table up front, help yourself, take the pictures. We have copies. If you see a picture that somebody else already grabbed, contact Nisha or myself, and we will make sure we get one to you. If you want a copy of the meme slideshow, contact Barbara. I'll have this whole corner knows Barbara, so don't know how to get a hold of her. And in lieu of flowers, we'd ask that you go to the Schrader website, their website here. They have an organization that Keith would like donations to go to. At that, I'd just like to thank everyone for coming today, and everybody online, I'd like to thank you for joining us as well. Thank you. Okay, is this yours?